First of all, David Davis, our thoughts are very much with the families of the 48 people injured, many of them seriously, and the 6 dead. But we shouldn't forget the role of the police in extraordinary circumstances.
Yes, well, our thoughts are with them, but not just our thoughts. The thoughts of the whole nation are with them. I think the thoughts and sympathy of the whole nation with them, and they should know that, if that helps them in what is a terrible time. The police and the emergency services generally have done a fabulous job here. I think, you know, it's awe-inspiring, frankly, that from, as I understand it, from the first call to the point at which the terrorists were killed was 8 minutes, you know, in central London.
And the police were confronting people they thought might have been suicide bombers.
I mean, we bandy the word hero around very easily in a modern age, but a real hero is somebody who runs towards danger when everyone else is running away. And running towards somebody who's wearing what you think is an explosive suicide vest is the ultimate in heroism and courage, in my view.
Unlike the Manchester attack, there were 3 people involved here that we know about. Is this a worrying development? Does that suggest there may be more out there? This is part of a network?
Well, there's literally at this stage no way of knowing. I mean, the difficulty with this is that lone wolf, or even lone packs of wolves, if you like, 3 of them, attacks are incredibly difficult for the intelligence agencies to get inside. The normal approaches of intercept, of monitoring and so on are less easy to do, or maybe sometimes impossible, if you've not got communications taking place over long distances. So it's very hard to know. But clearly, it's look, having a 3rd attack in a very short period of time, from the Westminster one through Manchester to this, is, of course, an incredibly worrying.
This means that our election campaign has been knocked off course twice now. A lot of people feel that big issues, including Brexit, haven't been properly discussed. Do you think there is any case at all for extending the election campaign? And if the Prime Minister decided, could that legally be done?
Well, let me do it the other way around. I'm not sure it can be legally done. I mean, in order to do this, you'd have to have some change of law, I think. And who's going to do that? Parliament no longer exists. I'm not a member of Parliament for the duration, as are none of the other people who were members.
So we're locked into June the 9th?
I think we're locked into June the 9th. I think, actually, the public would want us to be locked into June the 9th. I mean, there's a balance of things here. On the one hand, clearly we want to respect the people who have been injured and killed. We want to pay proper respect, and therefore we don't want to carry on across it. But on the other hand, the people doing this are doing this because they despise the freedoms we have. And those freedoms can be the freedom to go out on a Saturday night or the freedom to cast a vote. And it may be, we don't know, at least I don't know, I'm not briefed this morning on this, but I don't know whether or not they are deliberately trying to disrupt the general election or whether this is a coincidence of timing. In that
because there must be a possibility that there are further attacks, that this is a deliberate attack on the election campaign itself.
Yeah, it may well be. In which case, all the more reason not to defer, not to deflect, to, as far as possible within the grounds of propriety, to actually not let this put us off course at all.
So this suspension of campaigning should be a relatively brief one?
I think it will be a relatively brief one. I mean, this is not the first time that an attack has been made on a Western election campaign. Back in 2004, before our 7/7 bombing, the year before, there was an attack on Madrid, the great Madrid bombing, terrible Madrid bombing, and that was, I think, 3 days before the election. There was a lot of debate in Spain at that time as to whether they should defer or suspend the election or whatever. And the King just said, no, this is our democracy. We're not going to give in to these people. We're not going to allow it to be made politics of. We carry on. And I think that was the right decision.
Because some people would say, I mean, our unofficial national motto in Britain is keep calm and carry on. Yeah. And we are keeping calm, but at the moment we are not carrying on in the normal sense. We have suspended the election campaign. Perhaps that's the wrong thing to do.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you have to respect the people who have suffered as a result of this. Also, of course, while we're sitting here, COBRA's going on. This is the meeting in the Cabinet Office briefing room, what COBRA stands for. It sounds very sinister. But it's the meeting of very senior heads of agencies, senior cabinet ministers, normally chaired by the Prime Minister, the senior police officers and so on, who will be looking at this with all the data they can gather, all the information they can gather, either in the last few hours or prior to that, to assess what the size of the risk is. Do they need to trigger Operation Temperance on? Now, that's got to happen. And whatever else happens, that has to happen in the interest of preserving the safety of the public.
And will they be discussing whether it was a mistake to downgrade the security level?
Well, they may, but I don't think that really is the case. I mean, this is a decision that effectively is taken by JTAC. It's a deliberately depoliticised decision. All these decisions, the putting soldiers on the streets and so on, you don't want politicians taking those decisions. And the assessment of risk level is done by JTAC, who are experts, all of them, and they know exactly what they're doing. And they have to balance too, the extent to which we're going to allow terrorists to disrupt our lives. After all, the current level is still pretty high. It's the second highest level of threat. The other thing you have to ask yourself is would it make a difference? Could it have made a difference?
Exactly.
These policemen got there in 8 minutes, partly because we have more armed response vehicles now out permanently on the streets anyway, and so they're able to do that. So could anything else have been done? And I think the answer is, at least at first sight, no, but we'll have to. That's right. Exactly what they're going to be discussing.
OK, I've just heard that Cressida Dick, the new head of the Met, is about to make a statement, so I'm going to hand back to my news.